For the longest time, if you were looking to buy a Lexus SUV that could also carry up to 7 people, your choices were either the Lexus LX or the Lexus GX. Now, both of those vehicles were fantastic when you needed to go off-road, but they were absolutely poor choices if you had to carry 7 people and their stuff. Now, thankfully, for 2024, Lexus has finally rectified things with the introduction of the first ever Lexus TX. This is a vehicle that is based off of the supersized Toyota Grand Highlander, and in the Lexus fashion, this vehicle is offered in 3 different powertrains, including 2 electrified options. Now, we already had a chance to spend a full week with the base TX 350, but as you can see, this week, Lexus has loaned us the middle child in the powertrain lineup. This model is known as the TX 500h F-Sport Performance, which means you essentially have the best handling version of the vehicle, and you also have a powertrain that combines a turbocharged engine with 2 electric motors, delivering nearly 370 horsepower. So for those of you who have been waiting a long time for a Lexus crossover that can actually carry your family, how does the 2024 Lexus TX 500h F-Sport Performance stack up? Stay tuned to find out. So before we start talking about the unique styling differences between the 500h and other trim levels, let's go ahead and pop the hood and show you guys what's powering this thing. Now, because this vehicle is based off of the Toyota Grand Highlander, you're going to find an engine underneath here that you can also find in the Grand Highlander, albeit though the Lexus has slightly more power. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the latest Toyota and Lexus products, this powertrain has been replacing the old naturally aspirated V6 across the board. It is the 500h F-Sport Performance, which means we have essentially the same hybrid max powertrain out of the Toyota Grand Highlander, a 2.4-liter gasoline direct injection 4-cylinder paired up with 2 electric motors, one at the front and then a separate E-axle at the rear, giving this thing electronic on-demand all-wheel drive. The gas engine on its own delivers 271 horsepower and 339 pound-feet of torque. Combined with the electric motors, however, this thing will make 366 horsepower and 406 pound-feet of torque. That's around 4 more horsepower and 6 more pound-feet of torque versus the same powertrain in the Grand Highlander. It all goes out through a 6-speed automatic transmission, so 6 conventional gears as opposed to a CVT. And like I said earlier, all-wheel drive is going to be standard. Fuel economy is rated at 27 in the city, 28 on the highway. That is recommended on premium fuel. That's actually 1 mpg better versus what you get in the Grand Highlander. This vehicle has a 17.1 gallon fuel tank. You're looking at around 400-ish miles of range on a full tank. Remember, that's on premium fuel. Lexus claims 0 to 60 in 6.2 seconds. We'll test it out when we get this vehicle out on the road. It has a top speed of around 112 miles an hour. And this vehicle is rated to tow a maximum of 5,000 pounds, properly equipped. As this car sits, it weighs in at just over 4,900 pounds, around 200 pounds heavier versus the non-hybrid version, just the 350, and about the same weight as the Toyota Grand Highlander Hybrid Max Platinum. Now, let's go ahead and close up this hood, which, as you saw, is supported by struts as opposed to a prop rod. Now, this particular one that I'm showing you here is essentially the halo color that Lexus revealed the vehicle in last year. It's known as Incognito. It's unique to the 500h F-Sport Performance model, and I have to say, for like a flat gray, it's a very trendy color. I think it works particularly well on this vehicle. A lot of you have criticized the TX for having a front fascia that reminds you of a Grand Highlander, and I kind of do see that. You can see the hood has the nice little creases on it. The paint color itself doesn't have any metallic fleck. You can see it has a new version of the Lexus spindle grille. They call it a unified spindle with this functional crevice that allows for air to come through and cool the engine, of course. The spindle grille itself is definitely less in your face. There's also some chrome trim. You can see the headlights. For some reason, Lexus does not offer their triple beam LED headlights. You do get LED headlights with LED low and high beams, LED daytime running lights, and you also have LED fog lights. But for a vehicle, you know, in this category that's also not like their base model, their premium triple beams should be available. I suspect Lexus will offer that probably for the next model year. You can see the front fascia is unique on the 500h with a little bit more sporty pretensions. There's some nicely integrated parking sensors, a full 360 camera. But let me know in the comment section below. I definitely think that this car needs a more aggressive look. The 500h definitely delivers that, but it still looks a little too similar to a Toyota Grand Highlander in my eyes. Now, moving around the side profile, this is the biggest SUV in Lexus's North American lineup at 203.5 inches long. It's literally 2 inches longer than the Grand Highlander. It rides on the same 116-inch long wheelbase. So again, this is a big SUV for big American families, and it's exactly the vehicle that Lexus has needed. You can see the 500h comes standard with these big 22-inch wheels. with a double 5-spoke design with a graphite gray and black finish to it. You also have Brembo 4-piston brake calipers. They're painted black, although I wish they were painted red, with larger brake rotors. You also have adaptive dampers. The tires are 255 by 45 R22s. Remember, 22s are standard on this trim. And like I said, adaptive dampers, but no air suspension. You also get active rear wheel steering on this car. It's only on the 500h, which again helps to improve the handling dynamics and makes this car feel a little bit smaller and sportier versus a Grand Highlander. You can see there's an F Sport badge here that's blacked out to show this is an F Sport Performance. The wheel arch molding is body colored, which I really much prefer. It makes the car look a little bit more finished. The mirrors you can see are black painted. They're power folding, integrated turn signals, camera mounted underneath below it. You can see my test car also comes standard with the panoramic sunroof because it has the luxury package. That's an extra $2,500 or I'm sorry, $3,000. You also have the accessory crossbars that my test car has. There's a lot of black trim on the side. And then these door handles, you can see, they look conventional, but they're actually the digital latch system where there's a pressure pad. Push that, and that allows the door to actually open up. Now, from this angle, you can really see the extra length of the Lexus TX. Now, again, I almost called it a Grand Highlander because it really does look like a Grand Highlander to me. And this is where, again, it's a missed opportunity from Lexus to make this car stand out even more. But again, most people in this segment don't necessarily care that much, but I will say that the MDX Type S, this car's main rival, has a much more upscale and sportier look. Now at the rear, you can see it has the signature Lexus design cues with the light blade, full LED taillights with LED turn signals, LED reverse lights, and LED brake lights. It spells out Lexus in the back as well. There's a 500H Direct 4 badge there to let you know you have all-wheel drive. No visible exhaust tips. That's something that they should have added, again, for a model that has an F Sport Performance badge. There's nicely integrated parking sensors. You also have a more sporty looking rear bumper. You also have this subtle rear spoiler. The rear window wiper is kind of mounted right front and center there, so it kind of draws your eyes there as opposed to being, you know, hid underneath the rear spoiler. And then in terms of the cargo area, you can see it also has a hands-free foot-activated tailgate. And the beauty about this new chassis and it being based on the Grand Highlander is loads of cargo space. Now, if you guys remember the old RXL, that literally was a very lame attempt at offering a third row because it had a third row that couldn't even fit children and also couldn't fit stuff. This car fixes that because you have a little under 21 cubic feet of storage space with the third row seat up. Again, enough space, Lexus says, for 7 carry-on suitcases back here with the third row seat up, which is impressive. Underneath the floor here, you can see there is a little bit of underfloor storage. You do have a jack under there. The 12-volt battery also lives back here, I'm assuming to help with the weight distribution. Underneath here, you can't see it, but there is a spare, I believe there's a temporary spare tire mounted underneath here if you start poking around. You can obviously fold down these third rows by basically just pushing that button. The power fold feature is exclusive to the Lexus. That's something you can't get in the Grand Highlander. Now, when you fold down the third row, it does expand the cargo capacity to around 57.5 cubic feet. That's massive. So most of you may actually have the third row down. You have so much cargo space. If you fold down the second row, again, that'll expand the cargo to around 97 cubic feet. That's among the tops in the segment, and it's basically identical to the Grand Highlander. The downside with the TX, however, is because Lexus wanted this vehicle to be more comfortable, so the third row only carries 2 people across as opposed to 3 across. So seating capacity maxes out at 7 for this vehicle, 6, however, on this model because it has captain's chairs. So now that we've talked about the exterior styling of this TX 500h F Sport Performance, let's go ahead and talk about the interior because that's where a lot of luxury buyers really place a higher emphasis, obviously. Before we get inside, however, here is the Lexus key fob, their intelligent access key. You can see this is an older fob design. It has the usual buttons here for lock, unlock, power liftgate, and panic. There is remote start from the fob as well. If you push the lock button 3 times and then hold it on the 3rd try, that'll activate the remote start. Lexus also offers their digital key function where you can use your phone as a key. So that's also a great option to have if you guys are an owner of this vehicle. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the door handles look conventional, but there's a little pressure pad on the back. That's what opens the door. If you touch that area here, that will lock the door. It also will power fold the mirrors in. Lexus does not offer an auto walk-away lock or unlock feature, which I really hope that they would offer at some point. Now, looking at the interior, you can see my test car with the incognito exterior. It has the black F Sport specific leather interior. Now, you can also get it with a birch, a light gray interior, but as you can see, this is a little bit too dark for my taste. And I also wish that Lexus would offer like a nice brown or cream colored interior. or a red interior. I hope that they will eventually, you know, expand the color palette as we go later into the model year for 2025 perhaps. But again, for now, this is, you know, you get your choice between this black or a light birch gray. Now you can see the door panel, the material definitely looks very cheap on an initial glance. And I have to admit, this is probably where I wish that Lexus would put more wood and more colors in here, because you can see the upper door panel here has a soft touch injection molded plastic. Some competitors do leather stitching. You have real leather on this portion of the door panel. This as well, it even has leather covering the Mark Levinson stereo. The 21 speaker Mark Levinson sounds fantastic. If you guys are audiophiles, highly recommend going with that. You can see the window controls have that high quality look and feel to them with the way they feel when you operate them. It's one touch for all four, as expected. You also have power folding mirrors, which is a nice touch, and all the buttons feel high quality. You can see this is how you exit the vehicle. You just push that to open the door, and then if the power's out, you can actually pull on that twice. That's a way to manually open it. Down here it is hard touch plastic. There's a little bit of storage, and you can see the 500H also includes alloy sport pedals along with the aluminum side plate. These seats, they are adjustable in 14 different ways. They're heated and ventilated, and they also are exclusive to this model because they are the F Sport seats. And I have to say, they're aggressively bolstered, but they're also really comfortable, and they also will accommodate wider frames. Lexus just does fantastic seats, and that's also another reason to choose this over the Grand Highlander. But getting inside, with around 8 inches of ground clearance, you have a nice, you know, easy step-in height. As I shut the door, the door has a nice solid sounding thunk, which adds to that impression of quality. Now, once you're in here, when you want to start it up, the button to fire up the powertrain is basically up there. Push that, you can see it's a hybrid, so it's not going to have a traditional starter noise. The vehicle will kind of whir to life. You will hear the engine start up, which I noticed it did all the time I started this vehicle. It never really started up in just electric only. The engine will come on. And that's because of the nature of this hybrid max powertrain. It's not quite as efficient as the regular hybrid that you'll find in the Grand Highlander, which is unavailable in this particular model. Now, in terms of the rest of the interior, you can see Lexus definitely has its own unique dashboard design compared to the Grand Highlander. But again, some of you have criticized Lexus for making this feel a little bit too similar. Now, I will say that there are some upgraded tech elements here. You got this digital 12-inch cluster in the instrument panel, which definitely is nice. It's customizable. But again, if you look a little bit closer, it's basically the same type of screen that you're going to find in the upper trims of the Grand Highlander. There is a nice Lexus specific steering wheel here with a power tilt telescoping mechanism. You can't get that in the Grand Highlander. You have their Lexus Safety System 3.0. So that's the camera that watches your face to make sure you're paying attention. You also have paddles on the wheel, F Sport specific badge. I like the leather that you get on this model with the perforated leather. The steering wheel is also heated in up to 2 different ways, which is nice. The horn, it sounds pretty nondescript, but also appropriate given the size of this vehicle. You also have these touch-sensitive buttons here, which basically shows you in the heads-up display what it's actually controlling. You can also push this button to change what it is controlling. So that's also a pretty nice touch, but some of you have complained again that it's a little bit too gimmicky. It takes a little bit getting used to, but once you do, it certainly, you know, gives it a little bit more of a premium feel. And then over here in the center stack, all of them will come with the 14-inch touchscreen here. As you can see, it has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. This is the Lexus interface system. We've seen this from the new NX about 2 years ago. It's one of the best systems in the business. It works well. CarPlay, as you can see, is wireless. It also has over-the-air updates, and it also has Android Auto. You can also push that. It'll expand the CarPlay out a little bit more. But again, most of the times I had in this with that little bar that allows you to get back to the native system. Climate control, that's basically the difference between the 12.3-inch system and the Grand Highlander, is you have the climate controls, which is digital. It's always at the lower portion. You also have these little actual knobs that allow you to kind of adjust the temperature, and there's a little screen in there, which also looks nice. The screen itself is quick, snappy, and responsive. You can also go into your drive mode selector here. You can see there's Eco, Normal, and Sport. I don't like how it's in the screen. That's something where I wish Lexus wouldn't have gotten rid of the actual knob that they used to do. It also has embedded GPS if you guys want to use that. Most of you won't. You'll use the CarPlay. There's your car vehicle information. You can also go into your settings here where you can adjust a few things. The ambient lighting in this car, I have to say, at night also looks pretty decent, but again, Lexus could do a little bit better in terms of the ambient lighting. I would like to see more lighting, especially along the dash of the vehicle. It's a little bit too dark, especially when you compare it with this dark interior. But overall, it's nice that Lexus is doing that. It's something you won't get again in the Grand Highlander, is that thematic ambient lighting. Now down here you can see, push that button, it brings up the full 360 camera, which there it does a perimeter scan. That view is a little bit useless. The graphics also could be better. Most of the times you just put the vehicle into reverse, you can see it'll bring up the backup camera with a top-down view. It's got rear cross-traffic trajectory, cross-traffic braking, front collision braking, front cross-traffic detection. So all that stuff that you expect. It also has a washer for the camera, for the rear camera in case it gets dirty, which is also a nice touch. Down here you can see you've got 3 USB-C charging ports. You've got a volume knob here. Your air vents here are traditional, but they look a little bit more fancy. In terms of the materials, you can see there's a soft touch injection molded plastic here. It's got some leather covering this portion of the dash. It's padded over here. And then this is actual leather with the ultra suede because of the luxury package. This is like an aluminum trim going across the side. Again, I would have liked to see wood. In terms of actual wood trim, there's only wood like right here, it looks like. So I really don't like how Lexus has been doing away with wood. I think that's what their customers really expect. They said that this is just a more youthful look, a more modern look without the wood. You can see wireless phone charging pad here. My iPhone 14 Pro Max fits nicely. Open that up. You can see there's a nice little hidden storage area, which I love. This little shifter controls the 6-speed auto. You kick it to the left first, then go up to go into reverse. Kick it back down to go to drive. Kick it back here to go to manual mode. And then there's also a park button there. There's also a trail mode here if you're off-roading, and electronic parking brake, stability control off switch. These little cup holders, pieces, they also pop out, which makes it easy to kind of clean. But I will say that once you take them out, they're a little difficult at times to place them back in. Nice padded center console with, it opens up in 2 different ways. That's actually pretty deep. All my camera equipment fit in there quite nicely. The one thing I don't particularly love is this little open area here. I noticed that this allowed drinks to spill and like crap to build up here that I was cleaning off earlier, so not sure I love the design of that. Again, the seats are very comfortable and supportive, even though they're aggressively bolstered. I love the ultra suede with the premium leather that you get. These are also heated and ventilated here, and they're just extremely comfortable even on those longer road trips. Open up the glove compartment, you can see it's damped, it's lined with felt, it's a bin style. It offers a decent amount of storage. There's also a little bit more storage here to the side, which is a nice touch. You can see there's a digital camera review mirror that's included with the luxury trim, which is again great if you need to put stuff to the roof back in the backseat area. You can see the roof line has a woven material. Ultra suede would have been nice. There's a big panoramic roof, as you can see, which goes all the way into the second row. It's standard on the luxury package trim, which is nice. But overall, as you can see, the interior certainly has the typical look and feel that you expect from today's modern Lexus products. Does it feel differentiated enough from the Grand Highlander? It depends on what your expectations are. I'd say it's kind of in the middle for me. There are a couple things that I wanted Lexus to add, especially with brightening up the interior and making it feel more luxurious. The tech is perfectly fine. However, the ambient lighting is nice, but it needs to be a little bit more intricate. But overall, this is definitely still a nice place to spend time. You have great visibility. It's quiet in here, and the build quality is typical Lexus, impeccable. Now moving to the back seat of the Lexus TX, you're gonna notice quite a few things. First of all, if you guys want the hybrid, it only comes with the captain's chairs, and that's because of the positioning of the battery pack. It's got a 1.44 kilowatt hour nickel metal hydride battery that lives underneath this second row area here, which Lexus says necessitates the captain's chairs, which does limit the seating capacity to 6. So if you want the bench, like I showed you in my TX 350 video, you have to step down to that base engine. The plug-in hybrid also only has the captain's chairs. Back here on the door panels, you can see it's got a soft touch injection molded plastic, rear manual sunshades, more leather covering the door panels here, along with the Mark Levinson stereo system as you expected. Down here, it's all hard touch plastic, and it has that little button here that you push to get out of the vehicle from the rear doors. Now, getting inside, you can see in terms of the legroom space, Lexus says there's around 39.5 inches back here, which is actually among the best in the class. It's certainly very, very spacious back here. This is where I'd have the front seat to drive. The seats do allow you to basically slide them forward and back if you'd like. You can also recline them by you operating this lever. And then as you can see, there's 2 USB-C charging ports, an actual household power outlet. You have heated and ventilated second row seats. That's standard on the hybrid version. You also have your own set of rear seat climate controls, which again is really nice. And you also have 2 storage cubbies over here. This little center console basically also has those little pop-out cup holders from the front area. You can see you can kind of interchange them if you guys would like, along with this little center console here that does eat up into your space to get back here. Your rear seat air vents are located on the ceiling. You also have some LED map lighting here. You can see the view out of the panoramic roof is nice. It comes all the way into the second row. And then in terms of the headroom space, for somebody my height, I'm 5'7", so I'm not the tallest, but there's still plenty of space. I can kind of get back here and I can cross my legs and get super comfortable. So overall, I would say this is fantastic for full-size adults to sit back here, and really only the tallest are going to notice their headroom could be a little bit tight. But of course, let's go ahead and take a look at the third row, because this is where, again, Lexus really stressed the fact that they wanted this vehicle to be able to carry full-size adults. And as you can see, getting inside, you push that button, that slides the seat forward. Although I will say that if you have a child seat here, it may get in the way. It may not allow you to slide it forward. But as you can see, getting back here into the third row, it only seats 2 across as opposed to the Grand Highlander, which sits 3 across. Let me go ahead and flip those headrests up and go ahead and hop into the third row area. Now, Lexus says the third row has 33.5 inches of legroom back here, which is pretty significant. I mean, I think the old RX L had probably I want to say 25 inches of legroom. So this is with the seat all the way back. You can see I can sit back here behind this seat. My knees aren't even touching the back of the seat. I can actually get my foot underneath here, which is nice. And I could actually sit back here on longer drives, so I think Lexus did a fantastic job. This vehicle does have space to fit 3 people across, but again, they only wanted 2 for comfort purposes because this is a luxury vehicle. You have the ultra suede and leather back here, which is also nice. The one thing I noticed, there's a USB charging port. You can also recline the seat back electrically, which is nice. You have cup holders, a nice padded area here, which is great. You also have rear seat third row air vents. That's something you don't get in the Acura MDX. It's also here on the other side along with the power outlet. And then you can see in terms of the headroom space at 5'7", I can sit back here and my head does get pretty close. So if you guys are over 6 feet, this is going to be a little tight in terms of the headroom space. But again, in terms of the legroom space, this is pretty significant. And I would say it's among the most spacious in the segment. It definitely has more space back here versus its main rival, the Acura MDX and the Infiniti QX60. So here we are back in the Lexus TX 500h F Sport Performance. I know that is a mouthful of a name, but it's been almost 6 months since I last drove this vehicle, and this is the middle powertrain option in the TX family. I had a chance to spend a full week in November with the TX 350. Remember, that has basically this powertrain minus the hybrid portion, and I was relatively impressed with that powertrain. Yes, I did want for more power at times, but honestly, that 2.4 turbo just offers so much more low-end torque, a much more effortless feel versus the old naturally aspirated V6. So now that we're adding 2 electric motors, but at the same time we're adding 200 more pounds of weight, this model again makes 366 horsepower, 406 pound-feet of torque, connected to a 6-speed automatic transmission with their electronic on-demand all-wheel drive system, courtesy of that separate rear E-axle. But overall, first impressions of the TX 500h F Sport Performance are quite positive. This vehicle has just a level of refinement that you expect from a Lexus vehicle, even though, again, some of you are quick to, point out that it's a fancy Grand Highlander. But let's go ahead and see what we can get 0 to 60 wise. All right, on that run, we just got 5.83 seconds, which is actually a pretty quick amount. I mean, the last time I tested this vehicle, I was out in Texas, I believe, and I got 6.2 seconds on a road that wasn't quite as level as my usual test that I usually drive on during all these videos. And that time is about almost 2 seconds faster versus the TX 350. And that time is also a smidge quicker versus what I got in the Toyota Grand Highlander Hybrid Max, which again essentially has this powertrain. This engine is very smooth, very refined. It also, tries to mimic the sound of a 6-cylinder engine in the sound enhancer. It's got a digital fake noise that it plays through the speakers, and it's not bad. I don't particularly love it, but at the same time, I think most people are going to be quite, satisfied with the level of acceleration. This time I'm just going to floor it, and we're going to see what we can get without brake torquing, and I'll try it again up ahead and see if we can get a similar time. Oof, instant pull from the electric motors. 6.19 seconds there. And the one thing I also noticed is this powertrain does not like it if you brake torque it. You actually just get, I think you get the best acceleration just from flooring it from a stop, and that's again because of the instant torque that you get from the electric motors. And then once the horsepower runs out from the electric motors, the turbo engine takes over, and at that point the lag of that turbo engine, you don't feel it anymore because you've gotten past the lag, but you've got that electric motor kind of filling in the gaps. So overall, I think people are going to be quite satisfied with the powertrain in this model. Again, it's the middle engine for a reason. I'll be driving the TX 550h Plus, the plug-in hybrid model, at a later date. Lexus will actually loan me that vehicle in about a month or so. That's the one that comes with the V6. Right there, I really noticed the instant power from the electric motor. There's no waiting for the turbo to spool up. It's just smooth, it's linear. And this hybrid max powertrain, if you guys haven't had a chance to drive it, it is a satisfying replacement for the old V6. I know a lot of you are, questioning how dare Toyota and Lexus get rid of the V6. I think it's, time for an evolution. It's time for a change. And the other thing you get with this model is you get adaptive suspension, adaptive variable suspension. You get rear wheel steering, actually, which this is what differentiates it, of course, from the Grand Highlander. And as I turn into the vehicle on these 22-inch wheels, all-season tires, of course, I will say that the TX 500h shrinks. This car feels relatively sporty. The steering is quick and responsive, not much in terms of feedback, but you get a pretty good sense of, how much, grip the front tires actually have. The suspensions definitely still feels soft. Even in a sports setting here, I definitely got a sense that I'm driving around a family vehicle. It's still got a really soft ride quality. Put my foot down here, you can feel the front wheels tend to pull first because this vehicle doesn't actually have a separate axle that connects the engine into the rear drive shaft. But again, that rear electric motor has so much more power versus, the standard electric motor setup that you get in the Grand Highlander. You can't get that powertrain, the regular hybrid in this car, but the Hybrid Max is just a satisfying, feel in this particular type of vehicle. But let's try here again, another quick 0 to 60. This time I won't brake torque it, we'll just floor it. Shifts right at 6,000. 5.9 seconds there. So the 5.8 was the quickest time that we got. And again, it's really gonna probably end up being neck and neck with a Grand Highlander. I mean, the two cars weigh pretty much the same. The Lexus has 4 more horsepower. You're not gonna really feel that in everyday driving. Do I wish the Lexus had more? Sure, I wish this had like 400 horsepower. Put my foot down there. Not really enough power to spin out the wheels because of the all-wheel drive system, but I think most people are going to be quite happy with the effortless feel, especially if you plan to carry, people in the vehicle all the time, if you plan to tow close to that 5,000-pound tow rating. But let's go ahead and go here, and we'll take the drive mode out of sport. We'll just kind of put it into its normal drive mode here, which I don't like how Lexus puts it in the screen over here. I would much prefer the old dial that they used to have. It just was easier to access versus having to go into a screen. Now, driving the vehicle in normal mode here, this is where it tries to prioritize more electric driving. And I have to say, this car does have the ability to drive on electric power alone. The battery pack is only 1.44 kilowatt hours. But unlike the, hybrid system that runs off of a planetary drive with an eCVT, you do find that the gas engine is constantly waking up in this car a lot more than you'd want it to. And that's the reason why Toyota and Lexus prioritizes more performance with this model. I mean, yes, right now I'm driving along in normal mode. I'm on the brakes. It is able to send power back into the battery pack through the regen brakings, but anytime I put my foot down a little bit harder, the gas engine is right there and ready to start up to assist. And it's like that for a reason, because of the 6-speed automatic, only 2 electric motors as opposed to 3. It's got one at the front and one at the rear. But again, it's still satisfying. This is one of the few electrified options that you're gonna find in this segment. This is something where I wish Acura would offer a hybrid version of the MDX, especially the MDX Type S. This definitely feels like it's on par with an MDX Type S in terms of handling, although the Acura is a little bit faster. It's about a half a second faster 0 to 60 wise, as it should be because it's a Type S, but at the same time, this wears the F-Sport Performance badge. So I was expecting this car to be in the mid to low 5-second range 0 to 60 time. I'll be curious to test out the plug-in hybrid later and see if that one is significantly quicker than this model. Again, the plug-in hybrid will have the ability to coast on electric power alone. In terms of the ride quality, in normal mode, the dampers get a little bit softer, so it's smooth and compliant. It's very quiet in here. You do, again, hear that occasional fake engine sound making its way through the cabin, through the speakers, but you can also turn that off if you guys don't like that. But this thing is just smooth. It's smooth, it's quiet. The seats are extremely comfortable and supportive. The heat and ventilation function works well, although I wish Lexus would offer massaging seats on this model, considering, it's a Lexus. It needs more features to differentiate itself from its Toyota equivalent. The infotainment system works nicely. The seats are also very comfortable. And, you know, on a road trip, you're gonna really eat this thing up. And in fact, I took this vehicle on a road trip to New York in my sort of testing, and I actually averaged around 25 mpg on the highway, which is not bad. In the city and around town, mixed driving, it was getting around 23 mpg. On a full tank of fuel, this thing was allowing me to do just under 400 miles, which is decent. I was hoping to get closer to 500 miles, but again, the Hybrid Max powertrain has a 17-gallon fuel tank, and you're gonna be doing in the mid 20 mpg range in most of your driving, which is, again, is good, but I'm going to suspect that the plug-in hybrid model will probably end up doing a little bit better, even though it has a V6 thanks to its much larger battery pack. But overall, you know, the TX is a very satisfying car. It's exactly the vehicle that Lexus dealers and Lexus customers have been demanding. And even though I do have some criticism about the exterior styling, and there's a couple of things that I wish that Lexus would offer to make it feel even more special versus the Grand Highlander, I suspect they may be doing that for the 2025 model year. They need to add more colors. For example, the exterior color palette is a little bit boring. But overall, I think that if you're looking for a luxury 3-row family SUV that can actually carry adults in the second and the third row and also have enough room for their stuff, the 500h F-Sport could be the sweet spot in the lineup, but I'll have to wait until I actually get one of the plug-in hybrid models for a full week before I can, you know, make that final decision. So even though the Lexus TX is a new model in the Lexus portfolio here in North America, sales have been relatively strong. Lexus said they managed to sell a little over 8,200 units in 2023. Now, of course, that comes with an asterisk because literally this car went on sale at the end of 2023. However, sales have already almost approached what Lexus did in terms of the full year of the Lexus UX, and this vehicle also outsold the Lexus LX. So I imagine this car is probably going to be in the 30 to 40,000 unit range when we get a full model year, which we'll find out at the end of 2024 when we go into 2025. But I have to say, after spending a full week with the middle child of the family, the TX 500h F-Sport Performance, if you guys are a driving enthusiast and you require a family SUV, this is something that should make it to the very top of your list because of that hybrid powertrain. As you guys saw, it offers effortless acceleration with that instantaneous torque, little to no turbo lag, a smooth overall powertrain feel, and 0 to 60 in just under 6 seconds, which should be fast enough for most, although I was surprised to see that the Acura MDX Type S, this car's main rival, is an actually quicker vehicle. The Acura also has a slightly sportier look to it. But there is something about the TX, especially in this particular configuration, that does look a little bit nicer versus the base versions of the car or even a Toyota Grand Highlander. As you guys saw, it has the typical Lexus refinements, a quiet ride, comfortable seats, really nice, smooth, controlled handling dynamics, which again, the 500h F-Sport Performance badge is a little bit far-fetched, because this certainly doesn't drive like an IS 500 F-Sport Performance, but it definitely feels a little bit smaller and more nimble versus the last Grand Highlander that I tested. The interior has impeccable build quality. Even though it may not look super flashy with all the wood and chrome and shiny details, I have to say Lexus does really good interiors. This one felt as solid as a rock, very little to no, or actually no squeaks and rattles whatsoever, and I took it on a long trip, and it was just one of the most comfortable vehicles that I've experienced. As you guys also saw, the second row and third row can actually carry full-size adults. The cargo area is also quite useful, even if you guys need to carry 7 people. And really what makes the TX so appealing is the fact that it comes with that Lexus, you know, reputation for quality and dependability, and you no longer have to make that sacrifice of driving around in a truck-based SUV because, again, this is a unibody platform that drives like a car, but it also drives like a smaller vehicle thanks to, of course, the upgrades that you got with the F-Sport handling package. But if you guys are looking to put a TX in your driveway, this vehicle is going to start at around 55 grand for the base TX 350 with front-wheel drive. If you guys want the electrified option, this is where things get expensive because this model here starts at around $69,000 for a base TX 500h with the premium package. That's standard equipment. So it's roughly a $16,000 upcharge to go basically from that TX 350 premium that I tested about 6 months ago. In terms of the price delta from a Grand Highlander, this model here with the luxury package, which adds another $3,000, some other options that this model has, like the Mark Levinson stereo system, the upcharge for the paint, all in this model came into just under $79,000. I know almost 80 grand for this vehicle makes it about 20 grand more versus the last Grand Highlander Hybrid Max Platinum that I tested. Is it worth the extra charge? I would say this car is worth about $10,000 more, but now we're talking about $20,000 more, I struggle to find reasons to choose this over a Grand Highlander, especially if you guys just want, the Lexus badge and you want slightly better handling with the rear wheel steering, the adaptive dampers. I think that Lexus needs to do a little bit more. I would like to see massaging seats. I'd like to see more color options. I'd like to see the triple beam LED headlights, especially at that price point. But overall, this is still a great option for those of you looking for a luxury family SUV that's going to have that strong reputation for reliability. Just be sure that you're a little careful with the options, because again, if you don't want to go for the hybrid, the gas-only version also is an excellent choice, and it comes in around $18,000 less expensive. So that's, again, something else to consider. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2024 Lexus TX 500h F Sport Performance. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.